I was standing in my kitchen, coffee shaking in my hand, staring at my phone. My little brother's voice was still echoing in my ears. Mom died last night. I inherited everything. You get nothing. Then he hung up. I should have cried. I should have screamed. I should have collapsed. But instead, I smiled. Not because I didn't love her. Not because I didn't care. I smiled because I knew something Ryan didn't. Something that would shatter his perfect little plan into 1,000 pieces. You see, my mother wasn't just kind, she was brilliant. And my brother? He'd underestimated her his entire life. That phone call wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of his reckoning. And that's where my story truly began. My name is Lydia Morgan, a high school art teacher. Before I share this chapter of my life, please, if you're listening to this right now, help me prove my mom wrong. She said no one cares about stories anymore. But I believe stories still matter. They heal us, they teach us, and sometimes they save us. Subscribe to Queen's Voice, and let's keep breathing life into tales that refuse to die. Now, let's begin. The coffee burned my tongue, but I barely felt it. I set the cup down on the counter, my hands still trembling, and played Ryan's message again. Mum died last night. I inherited everything. You get nothing. That's what she wanted. 7 years of law school had taught my brother how to deliver bad news without emotion. Cold, clinical, efficient. But something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. Like he'd practiced in front of a mirror. I looked out my kitchen window at the grey Halifax morning. Rain tapped against the glass in rhythms that matched my heartbeat. My mother couldn't be dead. I'd just spoken to her 3 days ago. She'd sounded tired, yes, but not dying. She'd asked about my students, told me about the new library volunteer who kept organising books backward, laughed at her own joke about getting old. That wasn't a woman on death's door. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to Mum's contact. My finger hovered over the call button. Then I stopped. If Ryan was lying, calling her directly would tip him off. If he wasn't lying, well, then I'd just be calling a dead woman's phone. The thought made my stomach twist. I'm Lydia Morgan, 45 years old, high school art teacher, weekend painter, and apparently the daughter who got nothing. My brother Ryan is 7 years younger than me, 38, but he's always carried himself like he's the older sibling, the successful one, the important one. He became a lawyer. I became a teacher. He bought a condo downtown. I rent a small apartment near the school. He wears suits that cost more than my monthly salary. I wear paint-stained jeans and my father's old cardigan. We were never close, but we weren't enemies either. We were just different. After Dad died 6 years ago, Mom became our only parent, and I'd like to think I was there for her. Every Sunday, I'd drive to her house with fresh bread from the bakery she loved. We'd sit in her garden, drinking tea, talking about everything and nothing. She'd tell me stories about the kids at the library. I'd tell her about my students' terrible attempts at watercolor portraits. Those Sundays were sacred to me. Ryan, on the other hand, visited maybe twice a year, Christmas and Mum's birthday, always with expensive gifts, cashmere scarves, luxury chocolates, wine I couldn't pronounce. Ryan's so busy, Mum would say, excusing his absence with a sad smile. He's building his career. I never argued. What could I say? That success shouldn't mean abandoning your mother? But 9 months ago, everything changed. Ryan came home for a weekend. He sat Mum down and convinced her to sign a power of attorney document. Just in case, he'd told her. You're getting older, Mom. Someone needs to handle your medical decisions, your bills. Lydia's too emotional for this kind of thing. Too emotional. As if loving your mother was a weakness. Mom had looked at me across the table, uncertain. I should have fought harder. I should have said no. I should have grabbed that document and torn it into pieces. But I didn't. Because part of me thought, maybe Ryan's right. Maybe she does need someone with legal expertise. Maybe I am too emotional. That's a mistake I'll regret for the rest of my life. 2 weeks after Ryan got power of attorney, Mom called me crying. Lydia, sweetheart. Ryan says I'm sick. Sick? What do you mean sick? He took me to see a doctor. Dr. Hayes. A specialist. He says I have early onset dementia. The word hit me like a freight train. Dementia. My sharp, witty, crossword puzzle-solving mother who could recite poetry from memory and never forgot a single birthday. Mom, that's impossible. You're fine. You're completely fine. That's what I said. Her voice cracked. But the doctor showed Ryan all these test results. He says I'm forgetting things, getting confused, that it'll only get worse. What things? What are you forgetting? There was a long pause. I don't know. Ryan says I forgot to pay my electricity bill last month, but I could have sworn I paid it. Did you check your bank statement? Ryan has all my paperwork now. He says it's easier this way. My blood ran cold. Mom, listen to me. Don't sign anything else. Don't agree to anything without calling me first. Promise me. Okay, sweetheart, okay. But it was already too late. 3 weeks later, Ryan moved her into Harborview Care Centre, a private nursing facility on the edge of town. She needs professional care, he told me over the phone. The house is too big for her. She's a danger to herself. She's not a danger to anyone, Ryan. She's perfectly capable. Are you a doctor, Lydia? No, but... Then stop pretending you know what's best for her. Dr. Hayes says this is necessary. I'm doing what Dad would have wanted. And just like that, my mother was gone. Locked away in a facility I wasn't even sure she wanted to be in. I visited her every week, just like I used to visit her house. But it wasn't the same. She seemed smaller, quieter, like something inside her had dimmed. The staff said she was adjusting. Ryan said she was safe. I said nothing, because what could I say? And now, standing in my kitchen with cold coffee and a brother who'd just declared her dead, I realized something. I'd been a coward. I'd let Ryan take control because I didn't want to fight. Because I didn't want to be the difficult daughter. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, he actually cared. But that phone call? That wasn't grief. That was victory. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number for Harborview Care Centre. A woman's voice answered on the third ring, chipper and professional. Harborview Care, how can I help you? Hi, this is Lydia Morgan. I'm calling about my mother, Elaine Morgan. She's a resident there. Oh, yes, Mrs. Morgan. Lovely woman. How can I help? I hesitated. If Mom was really dead, this woman would know. She'd offer condolences. She'd ask about funeral arrangements. Instead, she sounded cheerful. I wanted to check on her. How is she doing? She's doing just fine, dear. Had breakfast about an hour ago. Oatmeal and toast, her favourite. She's in the common room now, I believe. The world tilted sideways. She had breakfast? Yes, dear. Is everything all right? I pressed my hand against the counter to steady myself. Yes. Everything's fine. Thank you. I hung up before she could ask more questions. My mother wasn't dead. Ryan had lied. But why? Why would he call me and tell me she was gone? Why plan a funeral? Why tell me I inherited nothing? Unless he was planning to make it true. My hands shook as I scrolled through my contacts, looking for a name I hadn't called in years. Detective Sarah Lynn. We'd gone to high school together. She'd become a cop, specialized in financial crimes. We'd stayed in touch through Facebook, the occasional coffee meetup, the kind of friendship that's dormant but still alive. I didn't have time to think about whether this was an overreaction. I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. Lydia? Wow, it's been forever. What's up? Sarah. I need help. I think my brother is trying to kill my mother. There was a pause. Then, calm and serious. Tell me everything. I met Sarah at a coffee shop downtown 2 hours later. She sat across from me, in plain clothes, jeans, leather jacket, dark hair pulled back. She looked the same as she did in high school, just sharper, more focused. I told her everything. The power of attorney, the dementia diagnosis, the nursing home, the phone call this morning. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a small pad. When I finished, she looked up. Lydia, if what you're saying is true, your brother is committing elder abuse and fraud, possibly conspiracy to commit murder. Hearing it out loud made it real. I know it sounds insane. It doesn't sound insane. It sounds like something I've seen a dozen times before. Family member gains control of an elderly person's assets, isolates them, bleeds them dry. Sometimes they stop there. Sometimes. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. What do I do? I asked. First, we need evidence. Bank records, property transfers, medical files, anything that shows he's been moving money or making decisions without your mother's real consent. How do I get that? Leave that to me. I'll need you to sign some forms. Give me permission to investigate on your mother's behalf. But there's something else we need. What? We need to talk to your mother. Directly. Without Ryan knowing. I nodded. I'll go tonight. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Lydia, be careful. If your brother finds out you're onto him. I know. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in 9 months, I wasn't going to be the quiet daughter. I was going to be the one who fought back. That night, I drove to Harborview Care Centre. The building was nice enough, modern, clean, with big windows and a well-kept garden out front. The kind of place that charges a fortune and calls it luxury senior living. I parked in the visitor lot and walked through the front doors. The receptionist smiled at me. Hi, I'm here to see my mother, Elaine Morgan. Of course, sign in here please. I scribbled my name, hands still shaking. The receptionist didn't seem to notice anything strange. No condolences, no awkward sympathy. Because as far as she knew, my mother was alive. I walked down the hallway to room 12. The door was half open. I knocked softly. Mum? Lydia? Her voice. Alive. Alert. Real. I stepped inside. My mother sat in a chair by the window, a book in her lap. She looked thin, but not frail. Tired, but not broken. She looked like herself. I closed the door behind me and crossed the room in 3 steps, kneeling beside her chair. Mom, are you okay? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm fine, sweetheart. What are you doing here so late? Ryan called me this morning. He said you died last night. Her expression didn't change. She wasn't surprised. And that terrified me more than anything. Mum? She reached out and touched my cheek, her hand warm and steady. Lydia, there's something I need to tell you. What? She glanced toward the door, then back at me. I'm not sick, she whispered. I never was. My heart stopped. What are you talking about? The dementia diagnosis. Dr. Hayes. All of it. I've been pretending. I stared at her, my mind refusing to process what I was hearing. Why? She took a breath. Because I needed to know which of my children loved me for who I am, and which one only loved what I have. And just like that, the world shifted. My mother wasn't a victim. She was playing the longest, most dangerous game I'd ever seen. Mom, Ryan is planning something. He told people you're dead. He's planning a funeral. I think he's going to. I know, she said quietly. You know? She nodded. He's taking me for a drive tomorrow. He told the staff it's for fresh air. But Lydia. Her voice broke. I don't think he plans to bring me back. I couldn't breathe. My mother sat there, calm as still water, telling me my brother was planning to kill her. And she'd known all along. Mom, we need to get you out of here. Right now. Tonight. She shook her head gently. No, sweetheart. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? He's going to. I know what he's going to do. That's why we need to let him try. I pulled back, staring at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe the dementia was real after all. Let him try. Mom, do you hear yourself? She reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Lydia, listen to me. Your brother is smart. Too smart. If I just disappear from this place, he'll cover his tracks. He'll say I wandered off, that my dementia made me confused. He'll play the grieving son, and no one will question him. But if we go to the police, with what evidence? That he has power of attorney? That he moved me into a care home? That he manages my money? None of that is illegal, sweetheart. It's all perfectly legal. She was right. I hated it, but she was right. Then what do we do? My mother's eyes hardened, in a way I'd never seen before. We catch him in the act. She told me everything that night. How it started, 9 months ago, when Ryan first suggested the power of attorney. I wasn't born yesterday, Mom said, settling back in her chair. I've watched enough crime shows to know what happens when children get greedy, so I went along with it. I signed the papers, smiled, played the trusting mother. But why? Because I wanted to see what he'd do. Your father always said Ryan had ambition, but I wanted to know if he had character. She paused, her face sad. Turns out he doesn't. Within weeks of getting power of attorney, Ryan started moving money. Small amounts at first. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Always with plausible explanations, medical bills, facility fees, investment opportunities. Then he took her to Dr. Michael Hayes. He'd arranged everything ahead of time, Mom said. The appointment, the diagnosis, all of it. Dr. Hayes is an old friend of his. They play golf together every Thursday. So the dementia diagnosis was fake? Completely fake. Oh, Dr. Hayes ran some tests, made it look legitimate, but the results were fabricated. Ryan needed me declared incompetent so he could take full control. My hands clenched into fists. That's fraud. That's family, Mom said bitterly. At least, that's what Ryan thinks family means. She explained how she played along, pretending to forget things, acting confused when Ryan visited. It wasn't hard, she admitted. I just had to be a little slower, a little vaguer. People expect old women to be forgetful. Ryan saw what he wanted to see. But while Ryan thought he was manipulating her, Mom had been 3 steps ahead. She'd secretly contacted her old lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, who'd handled my father's estate. Together, they'd moved the bulk of Mom's assets into an irrevocable trust. Everything that matters is protected, Mom said. The house, my savings, your father's life insurance payout. Ryan can't touch any of it. All he has access to is one checking account with about $20,000 in it. Does he know? Not yet. He thinks he controls everything. That's why she'd let him move her into Harborview. That's why she pretended to be sick. She was waiting for Ryan to reveal himself completely. I needed proof, she said. Real proof. Not just suspicion. If I'm going to destroy my own son's life, I need to know for certain that he deserves it. Have you ever looked at your mother and realized she's stronger than you ever gave her credit for? That's what I felt in that moment. Not pity. Not fear. Pride. But Mom, if he's planning to hurt you tomorrow, then we'll be ready for him. She pulled out her phone. And yes, she still had her phone, hidden in her nightstand where the staff never checked. She showed me a text message from Ryan, sent 3 hours ago. Mom, I'm taking you for a drive tomorrow, 10 a.m. Dress warm. We're going to see the ocean one last time. One last time. The words made my skin crawl. He's going to make it look like an accident, I whispered. Mom nodded. Probably. A fall. A heart attack. Something that won't raise suspicions for an elderly woman with dementia. We need to call the police. Right now. We will. But first, I need you to do something for me. She told me to call Sarah Lynn. To explain everything. To set a trap. Your brother thinks I'm a helpless old woman. Let's show him how wrong he is. I called Sarah from the parking lot. It was almost 11 at night. But she answered immediately. Lydia? Sarah, I need your help. Tonight. Right now. I told her everything Mom had told me. The fake diagnosis. The trust. The drive to the ocean planned for tomorrow morning. When I finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, your mother is either brilliant or insane. Maybe both. Lydia, this is dangerous. If your brother suspects anything. He won't. My mother's been playing him for 9 months. One more day won't matter. Sarah sighed. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. The next morning, I arrived at Harborview at 8 a.m. Sarah was already there, dressed as a visiting health inspector. She'd brought a small team, 2 plainclothes officers, disguised as maintenance workers. They installed tiny cameras in Mom's room, in the hallway, and near the building's entrance. They put a GPS tracker on Mom's wheelchair, hidden inside the seat cushion. And they gave Mom a small device that looked like a hearing aid, but was actually a microphone connected to a police receiver. If anything goes wrong, Sarah told her, we'll be listening. We'll be tracking you. And we'll move in immediately. Mom nodded calmly, like she'd done this 100 times before. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to beg her not to go through with it. But I knew she wouldn't listen. This was her plan, her fight, her reckoning. All I could do was trust her. At 9:30, I left the building and got into my car across the street. Sarah sat beside me, a laptop open on her lap, showing live feeds from the cameras. Your mother's tougher than most cops I know, Sarah said. She raised 2 kids on a librarian's salary. Tough doesn't even cover it. We waited. At exactly 10 a.m., Ryan's black Mercedes pulled into the parking lot. My stomach twisted. I hadn't seen my brother in person in almost 3 months. He looked the same expensive suit, perfect hair, confident smile. The kind of man who looked trustworthy. The kind of man who could get away with murder. He walked into the building carrying a bouquet of white lilies. Funeral flowers. Cocky bastard, Sarah muttered. On the laptop screen, we watched him enter Mom's room. The audio crackled to life. Mom, hi. How are you feeling? Ryan, you came. Mom's voice sounded frail, convincing. Of course I came. I promised you a drive, didn't I? It's a beautiful day. Let's get you some fresh air. That sounds nice. I brought you tea. Your favorite. Chamomile. There was a pause. Sarah and I both leaned closer to the screen. Ryan handed Mom a thermos. Drink up. It'll warm you up before we go. Mom took the thermos, with shaking hands. We watched as she brought it to her lips. My heart stopped. What if it was poisoned? What if this was how he planned to do it? But Mom only pretended to drink, tilting the thermos just enough to wet her lips. Delicious, she said. Thank you, sweetheart. Ryan smiled. That smile. Cold, calculated, empty. Let me help you into the wheelchair. He lifted her gently, playing the devoted son. They left the room together. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, switching camera angles. We watched them move through the hallway, past the reception desk, out the front doors. The GPS tracker showed them heading toward Ryan's car. Unit 2, do you have visual? Sarah spoke into a radio. Affirmative. Target is loading the subject into the vehicle. I watched my brother help my mother into the passenger seat. He tucked a blanket around her legs. He adjusted her seatbelt. He even kissed her forehead. If I didn't know better, I'd think he actually loved her. Where's he taking her? I asked. Sarah checked the GPS. Heading east, toward the coastal highway. My blood turned to ice. The coastal highway. Cliffs. Sharp turns. Guardrails that had needed repair for years. The perfect place for an accident. We need to follow them. We already are. 2 unmarked cars, staying back far enough that he won't notice. I watched the little dot on the screen move along the road, heading toward the ocean. Heading toward whatever Ryan had planned. Mom's voice came through the speaker, faint, but clear. It's been so long since I've seen the water. I know, Mom. I thought you'd like this. You're such a good son. There was something in the way she said it. Not gratitude. sadness. Like she was mourning the son he could have been. They drove in silence for a while. Then Ryan spoke again. Mum, I need to tell you something. What is it, dear? I've been managing your affairs. The house, your accounts, everything. I know. You've been very helpful. There's just one problem. What's that? His voice dropped lower. Harder. You're worth more dead than alive. The words hung in the air. Sarah and I stared at the laptop screen. Did he just... I started. Yeah, Sarah said grimly. He did. Mom's voice came back, still frail, still confused. I don't understand. Of course you don't. You're too far gone to understand anything anymore. That's what the doctors say, anyway. Ryan? The house alone is worth $800,000. Your savings, Dad's life insurance, your pension. It all adds up. But as long as you're alive, it's tied up in legal nonsense. Trusts. Probate. Complications. You want my money? Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. I deserve your money, Mom. I'm the one who made something of himself. I'm the one who became successful. Lydia? She's a teacher. She makes $30,000 a year and lives in a shoebox. She doesn't need an inheritance. She wouldn't even know what to do with it. My hands clenched so hard my nails cut into my palms. But me? I have debts, investments, a lifestyle to maintain. And you sitting in that nursing home, drooling into your oatmeal, costing me $3,000 a month? That's not sustainable. So what are you going to do? Her voice was so small, so believable. Ryan pulled the car to a stop. On the GPS, I could see they were at a scenic overlook, a place where tourists took photos of the ocean crashing against the rocks below. A place where the guardrail had a gap. A place where a car could go over the edge. I'm going to help you, Mom. I'm going to end your suffering. Sarah grabbed her radio. All units, move in. Now. Ryan got out of the car and walked around to the passenger side. He opened Mom's door. Let's get you out for some fresh air. It's cold, Ryan. It'll only take a minute. He unbuckled her seatbelt, started to lift her out, and that's when the police cars appeared. 3 of them, coming from different directions, blocking the road. Ryan froze. Officers stepped out, hands on their weapons. Ryan Morgan, step away from the vehicle. For a moment, my brother just stood there, holding our mother in his arms. Then, slowly, he set her back in the seat. His face went blank. I don't know what you think is happening here, but we have everything on tape, Mr. Morgan. The confession, the intent, all of it. Sarah and I pulled up in my car 30 seconds later. I jumped out and ran to the passenger side. Mom sat there, wrapped in her blanket, looking tiny and fragile and absolutely triumphant. Hi, sweetheart, she said calmly. I started crying. I couldn't help it. I pulled her into my arms and held her like I was afraid she'd disappear. You're insane, I whispered. You're completely insane. I know, she whispered back, but I had to be sure. Ryan was being handcuffed 20 feet away. He was shouting something about lawyers, about misunderstandings, about how this was all taken out of context. But no one was listening. Sarah walked over to us. Mrs. Morgan, are you all right? Mom nodded. I'm fine, dear, though I could use some real tea. That chamomile Ryan brought tasted like poison. Sarah smiled grimly. We'll have it tested. If there was anything in it, that's another charge. Mom reached up and touched my face. Lydia, I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything. I couldn't risk Ryan finding out. I understand. Do you? I looked over at my brother, still shouting, still refusing to accept what was happening. Then I looked back at my mother. Yeah, I said, I do. They took Ryan away in handcuffs. He didn't look at me, didn't look at Mom, just stared straight ahead, jaw tight, like he was calculating his next move. Sarah rode with us back to Harborview. On the way, she filled us in on what would happen next. We'll charge him with attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and embezzlement. Between the recordings, the GPS data, and the financial records we pulled, he's looking at serious prison time. How much? I asked. If convicted? 10 to 15 years. Minimum. Mum was quiet. I reached over and took her hand. Are you okay? I don't know, she said softly. He's still my son. He tried to kill you. I know, but that doesn't stop me from loving him. It just means I love him from a safe distance now. I didn't know what to say to that. How do you respond when your mother still loves the man who tried to murder her? When we got back to Harborview, the staff swarmed us with questions. Sarah handled it, explaining that there had been an incident, that Mrs. Morgan was fine, that everything was under control. I took Mom back to her room. She sat down in her chair by the window, looking exhausted. Mom, you don't have to stay here anymore. You can come home. Come stay with me. She smiled. I appreciate that, sweetheart. But I'm not ready to leave yet. Why not? Because everyone here still thinks I have dementia, and I'm not done teaching them what underestimating an old woman will cost them. I laughed despite everything. My mother, the woman who'd outsmarted her own son, played dead while alive, and orchestrated a sting operation from a nursing home. She was 78 years old, and sharper than anyone I'd ever met. What are you going to do? I asked. First, I'm going to fire Dr. Hayes. Then I'm going to report him to the medical board. Then I'm going to make sure everyone knows what Ryan tried to do. That'll destroy his reputation. Good. He destroyed mine the moment he told people I was incompetent. She looked at me with those sharp, clear eyes. Lydia, I need you to do something for me. Anything. When Ryan's trial happens, I need you to be there. I need you to testify if they ask. I need you to be strong. I will. And I need you to forgive me. For what? For putting you through this. For making you think I was dying. For all of it. I knelt beside her chair, just like I had the night before. Mom, you saved yourself. You didn't need me to rescue you. You did it on your own. Not on my own, she said, touching my cheek. You were the one who called Sarah. You were the one who believed me. You were the one who showed up. She took a shaky breath. Ryan only showed up for my money. But you, Lydia, you showed up for me. And that's when I understood why she'd done all of this. Not just to catch Ryan, but to know, really know, which of her children loved her. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Lydia. Ryan's voice. I froze. How are you calling me? You're in jail. I get one phone call. I'm using it on you. I don't want to talk to you. I know, but I need you to listen. I should have hung up, but I didn't. You have 30 seconds. I'm sorry. The words caught me off guard. You're sorry? I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this. I'm sorry Mom manipulated you into thinking I'm some kind of monster. I'm sorry. You'll have to live with the guilt when you realize she's been lying to you this whole time. My grip tightened on the phone. She wasn't lying, Ryan. I heard the recordings. I heard everything you said. Taken out of context. You said she was worth more dead than alive. I was being sarcastic. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You were going to push her off a cliff. That's ridiculous. I was taking her to see the ocean. That's all. His voice was so smooth. So convincing. For a moment, just a moment, I wondered if maybe he was telling the truth. Then I remembered the thermos of tea. The white lilies. The way he smiled when he thought no one was watching. Ryan, you need help. I need my sister to stop believing everything a paranoid old woman tells her. Goodbye, Ryan. Lydia. Wait. I hung up and blocked his number. Because that's the thing about people like my brother. They'll make you doubt yourself even when you know the truth. They'll twist reality until you don't know what's real anymore. But I knew what was real. My mother was alive because she was smart enough to save herself. And Ryan was in jail because he was arrogant enough to get caught. A week later, Sarah called with an update. They tested the chamomile tea. It contained a massive dose of benzodiazepines, enough to make an elderly woman drowsy, confused, compliant. Ryan's plan had been simple. Drug her, drive her to the cliff, make it look like she'd wandered away, in a confused state, and fallen. But thanks to Mom's acting skills and a well-placed GPS tracker, he never got the chance. Dr. Hayes was also under investigation. Turns out, he'd falsified medical records for at least 6 other patients whose families had financial concerns. Ryan wasn't his first client, just his sloppiest. The trial was set for 3 months out. Sarah said it was an open and shut case. Your brother's going to prison, Lydia. No question. I should have felt relieved. But all I felt was sad. Sad for the brother I thought I had. Sad for the man he could have been. Sad for the family we'd never be again. That Sunday, I brought fresh bread to Harborview. Mom and I sat in the common room, drinking tea and watching the rain. Have you heard from Ryan? She asked. He called once. I didn't answer. She nodded. He'll call again. He won't stop until he convinces himself he's the victim. Are you going to talk to him? No. I said everything I needed to say when I watched him get arrested. We sat in silence for a while. Then Mom spoke again. Lydia, I need to tell you something. What? The trust I set up. The one with all my assets. Yeah? You're the sole beneficiary. I stared at her. Mum, I don't want your money. I know. That's why you're getting it. She smiled. Ryan spent his whole life chasing money, and in the end, it's the one thing he'll never have. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So I did both. My mother had survived. She'd outsmarted a man who thought he was smarter. She'd proven that love was stronger than greed. And she'd done it all, while pretending to be helpless. What would you do if this happened to you? I asked. She looked at me with those sharp, knowing eyes. Exactly what I did, sweetheart. I'd survive. Section 3. The funeral she attended. 3 weeks after Ryan's arrest, I got a strange call from a funeral director. Miss Morgan? This is Gerald Hoffman from Hoffman and Sons Funeral Home. I'm calling about the arrangements for your mother, Elaine Morgan. I nearly dropped my phone. Excuse me? Yes, your brother Ryan had prepaid for a full funeral service. Date is set for this Saturday at 2 p.m. I just wanted to confirm the flower arrangements and the guest list. My mind went blank. Then it hit me. Ryan had already planned Mom's funeral, before she was even supposed to be dead. Mr. Hoffman, I need to ask you something. When did my brother make these arrangements? Papers rustled on his end. Let me see. Looks like he came in about 6 weeks ago. Paid in full. Very specific about what he wanted too. White lilies, closed casket, limited viewing. He said your mother was very private and wouldn't want people staring at her. Closed casket. So no one would see that there was no body. Mr. Hoffman, my mother is alive. Silence. I'm sorry, what? My mother is alive. My brother is currently in jail for attempting to murder her. Whatever service he planned needs to be cancelled. More silence. Then, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I'll cancel everything immediately. And refund. Wait. An idea sparked in my mind. A terrible, beautiful, absolutely perfect idea. Don't cancel it. I'm sorry. Keep the funeral scheduled, exactly as Ryan planned it. Miss Morgan, I don't understand. Trust me, Mr. Hoffman, you will. I called Sarah immediately. Sarah, Ryan planned a funeral. It's this Saturday. Of course he did. He probably scheduled it before he even tried to kill her. What a piece of work. I want to go through with it. What? The funeral. I want it to happen. And I want my mother to attend. There was a long pause. Then Sarah started laughing. Lydia Morgan, you are your mother's daughter. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes. Let me make some calls. The next 3 days were a blur. Sarah coordinated with the prosecutor's office. They loved the idea. It'll be a perfect demonstration of premeditation, the prosecutor said. He planned her funeral before she was dead. That shows intent. Conspiracy. Calculated murder. They agreed to let Ryan attend his own mother's fake funeral. Under guard, of course. In handcuffs. So he could see firsthand what happened when you underestimated the woman who raised you. I called Mr. Hoffman back. Here's what we're going to do. Saturday arrived cold and grey. Perfect funeral weather. I picked Mom up from Harborview that morning. She wore a simple black dress and a string of pearls my father had given her on their 30th anniversary. She looked elegant. Strong. Alive. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked as we drove to the funeral home. Absolutely. Your brother wanted a show? Let's give him one he'll never forget. When we arrived, the parking lot was already half full. Ryan's colleagues from the law firm, his friends from the golf club, his ex-wife, who divorced him 2 years ago and apparently came just to make sure he was suffering. All of them believed they were attending Elaine Morgan's funeral. All of them were about to get the shock of their lives. Sarah met us at the back entrance. Everything's set. Ryan's being transported from county jail right now. Should be here in 20 minutes. And the guests? They'll be seated shortly. We've got 3 undercover officers in the crowd, just in case anything goes sideways. Mom squeezed my hand. Let's do this. The funeral home had a small chapel with dark wood pews and stained glass windows. At the front of the room sat a closed casket. Empty, of course, but covered in white lilies, just as Ryan had requested. The guests filtered in quietly, dressed in black, speaking in hushed tones. I recognized several faces. Ryan's law partner, Marcus, the man who'd vouched for Ryan's excellent character when he applied for partnership. Ryan's college roommate, Derek, the guy who Ryan always bragged to about his investments and portfolio. Even a few distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. They all signed the guest book. They all offered me their condolences. I'm so sorry for your loss, Lydia. Your mother was such a wonderful woman. At least she's not suffering anymore. I smiled and nodded and thanked them. And I didn't tell them a single thing. At exactly 2 p.m., the funeral director, Mr. Hoffman, stepped to the front of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today to celebrate the life of Elaine Morgan. Before we begin, I'd like to invite Ryan Morgan, Elaine's son, to say a few words. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. They'd heard Ryan was in jail. They'd heard there was some kind of family dispute. But surely he wouldn't miss his own mother's funeral. The side door opened. 2 sheriff's deputies walked in. Between them, in handcuffs and a county-issued jumpsuit, was Ryan. The crowd gasped. Ryan's eyes swept the room, landing on me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he looked at the casket, and he smiled. Not a sad smile. Not a grieving smile. A satisfied smile. Like he'd finally won. The deputies led him to the front of the room and positioned him in front of the microphone. Ryan cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming today. My mother, Elaine Morgan, was an extraordinary woman. His voice was steady, practiced. This was the performance he'd been preparing for. She dedicated her life to her family, to her community, to helping others. She was kind, generous, and loving. Someone in the crowd sniffled. Ryan continued. In her final months, she struggled with dementia. It was painful to watch her fade. But I did everything I could to make her comfortable, to give her dignity, to honor her wishes. He paused for effect. She wanted to be remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived. And that's what we're here to do today. He looked down at his handcuffed wrists. I know some of you have heard rumors, accusations, lies spread by people who don't understand the sacrifices I made for my mother. His eyes found mine. But the truth always comes out. And the truth is, I loved my mother. Everything I did for her. The room was silent. Even the prosecutor, sitting in the back row, looked impressed by Ryan's performance. My brother had always been a good liar, but he'd never faced an audience like this. Mr. Hoffman stepped forward. Thank you, Ryan. Now, before we proceed with the service, There's something unusual we need to address. Ryan frowned. What? Well, it's customary to ask if anyone would like to say a few words about the deceased. And we've had a special request. The side door opened again, and my mother walked in. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts. Someone screamed. Ryan's face went white, then red, then white again. Mom walked slowly down the aisle, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked straight at Ryan. When she reached the front, she turned to face everyone. "Hello," she said calmly. "I'm Elaine Morgan, and as you can see, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Chaos. People were on their feet, talking over each other, demanding explanations. Ryan just stood there, frozen, staring at her like she was a ghost. Mom raised her hand, and somehow, the room quieted. "I know this is confusing, so let me explain." She told them everything. How Ryan had convinced her to sign power of attorney. How he'd had her declared incompetent. How he'd stolen her money, planned her funeral, and attempted to murder her. "My son," she said, her voice breaking slightly, "thought I was too old, too weak, too foolish to see what he was doing." She looked directly at Ryan. "But I saw everything. I just needed the world to see it too." Ryan finally found his voice. You set me up." "No, sweetheart. I gave you a choice. You could have visited me, because you loved me. You could have managed my money honestly. You could have been the son I raised you to be." Her voice hardened. "Instead, you chose greed. You chose cruelty. You chose to plan my funeral while I was still breathing." She gestured to the casket. "So here we are, at the funeral you arranged, for the mother you tried to kill." Ryan's lawyer friend Marcus stood up. "Elaine, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Sarah said, standing up from the back row and showing her badge. "We have recordings of Ryan confessing to attempted murder. We have financial records showing fraud and embezzlement. We have testimony from medical staff, surveillance footage, and GPS tracking data." She walked down the aisle. "Everything Ryan told you today about being a devoted son, about making sacrifices, about being wrongly accused was a lie." Marcus sat back down. Ryan's ex-wife muttered, "I knew it." Mom turned back to the crowd. "I invited you all here today because Ryan wanted you to believe I was gone. He wanted your sympathy, your support, your validation." She smiled sadly. "Instead, you're going to be witnesses at his trial." Ryan finally broke. "You crazy old bitch. You manipulative, vindictive." The deputies grabbed him, pulling him back. But he kept shouting, "You were useless. A drain on my time and money. You should have died years ago." The room went silent. Even his own friends looked horrified. Mom just watched him, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of fear, tears of grief. For the son she'd lost long before she ever pretended to be sick. "I know," she said softly. "I know that's what you think of me. That's why I had to do this." Ryan was still struggling against the deputies. "I'll fight this. I'll appeal. You'll go to prison," Sarah said flatly. "And honestly, you did this to yourself." They dragged him out, still shouting, still refusing to accept reality. The door slammed shut behind him. For a moment, no one moved. Then Derek, Ryan's old roommate, started clapping. Slowly, others joined in. Not everyone. Some people left immediately, uncomfortable and confused. But enough people stayed. Enough people clapped. Enough people came up to Mom afterward and told her she was brave. That she was strong. That she was an inspiration. Marcus, Ryan's law partner, approached her with tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Morgan, I had no idea. If I'd known what he was doing." "You would have stopped him?" Mom asked gently. Marcus hesitated. I'd like to think so." "Then make sure you do stop it. The next time you see someone taking advantage of an elderly person." The next time you see someone using power of attorney as a weapon, speak up. He nodded. I will. I promise. After everyone left, it was just me, Mom, Sarah, and Mr. Hoffman standing in the empty chapel. Well, Mr. Hoffman said, looking around at the flowers and the casket, that was certainly the most unusual funeral I've ever hosted. Mom smiled. I hope it's the last one I attend for a very long time. Amen to that, I said. We started to leave, but Mom stopped at the casket. She placed her hand on the polished wood. Goodbye, Ryan, she whispered. I hope someday you understand what you lost. Then she turned and walked out into the sunlight. The trial happened 4 months later. I testified. So did Sarah. So did Tom Avery, the private investigator. So did nurses from Harborview. So did Patricia Chen, Mom's lawyer, who explained the trust, and how Ryan had been systematically trying to steal from it. Mom testified last. She sat in the witness box wearing the same black dress she'd worn to her fake funeral. Ryan's defense attorney tried to make her look confused, forgetful, unreliable. Mrs. Morgan, isn't it true that you've been diagnosed with dementia? That diagnosis was falsified by a doctor my son bribed. But surely, at your age, memory issues are common. My memory is perfect. I can tell you the exact date my son transferred $43,000 from my checking account without permission. Would you like to hear it? The lawyer backed down. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found Ryan guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, embezzlement, forgery. The judge sentenced him to 14 years in prison. Ryan didn't react. He just sat there, staring straight ahead. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time. Not with anger, with emptiness. Like somewhere along the way, he'd lost the ability to feel anything at all. 6 months after the trial, Mom finally moved out of Harborview. But she didn't move in with me. She bought a small cottage by the ocean, the same ocean Ryan had planned to use as his crime scene. If he wanted me to see the water one last time, she said, then I'm going to see it every day for the rest of my life. She volunteers at the library again. She reads to children on Tuesday afternoons. She's writing a memoir about her experience, hoping it'll help other families recognize the warning signs of elder abuse. She's thriving. As for me, I still teach art at the high school. I still live in my small apartment. I still drink coffee that's too hot and paint landscapes on the weekends. But now, every Sunday, I drive to Mom's cottage. We sit on her porch, drinking tea, watching the waves. And we don't talk about Ryan. We talk about books and students and seagulls and stupid things that make us laugh. Because that's what survival looks like. Not revenge. Not anger. Just living. Really living. Mom asked me once if I ever missed Ryan. I miss who I thought he was, I told her, but I don't think that person ever actually existed. She nodded sadly. I miss him too, but missing someone doesn't mean you have to let them hurt you. Last week, I got a letter from Ryan. It was forwarded from the prison. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single handwritten page. Lydia, I'm not going to apologize. You wouldn't believe me anyway. But I need you to know something. I didn't hate Mom. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted what was mine. That's not wrong. That's survival. You and Mom can play the victims all you want. You can tell your story and make me the villain. But in 10 years, when I get out, I'll still have my law degree. I'll still have my skills. I'll still rebuild. And you'll still be a teacher making $30,000 a year. So who really won? Ryan. I read it twice. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote back. Ryan, you're right about one thing. I'll still be a teacher. I'll still make $30,000 a year. I'll still live simply. But I'll also have something you'll never have. People who love me for who I am, not what I can give them. Mom is alive and happy. You're in prison and alone. So to answer your question, Mom won. I won. Love won. You lost the moment you decided money was worth more than family. I hope someday you understand that. But I'm not holding my breath. Lydia, I never sent it. I didn't need to. Because the truth is, Ryan doesn't deserve my words. He doesn't deserve my energy. He doesn't deserve anything except exactly what he got. Today is Sunday. I'm sitting on Mom's porch, writing this story down because someone told me stories still matter. That they heal us, teach us, sometimes even save us. My mother is inside making tea. The ocean is crashing against the rocks below. And I'm smiling. Not because my brother called and said Mom died, but because he was wrong. She didn't die. She survived. And so did I. Moral of the story. You know what I learned from all of this? Greed doesn't just destroy the person who's greedy. It destroys everyone around them. Ryan didn't just lose his freedom, he lost his family, his reputation, his future. And for what? Money he never even got to spend. My mother taught me that real strength isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's about being patient, strategic, knowing when to act and when to wait. She survived because she was smarter than the person trying to hurt her. And I learned that love, real love, doesn't require anything in return. I didn't visit my mother every Sunday because I wanted an inheritance. I did it because I loved her. That's the difference between Ryan and me. He saw a bank account. I saw my mom. If you're listening to this, and you have elderly parents, grandparents, loved ones, check on them. Not their bank accounts. Them. Make sure they're safe. Make sure they're loved. Make sure no one is taking advantage of them. And if you're someone who's been hurt by family greed, know this. You're not alone. Your worth isn't measured by what someone decided you deserve. It's measured by how you love, how you survive, how you stand up when everything tries to knock you down. My mother is 78 years old, and she outsmarted a lawyer, exposed corruption, and attended her own funeral. If that's not proof that underestimating someone is the biggest mistake you can make, I don't know what is. If my story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from Queen's Voice. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway, I'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for listening. And remember, love always wins. Always.